Ms. Elena Rossi, the stern-looking secretary called out into the waiting room of the Blackwood mansion. Mr. Marcus Blackwood will see you now. Elena straightened her simple black dress and clutched her worn leather purse tighter. This was her last chance. After being turned down by 5 other families, she desperately needed this job. Her daughter, Sophia's school fees were due next week, and their landlord wasn't going to wait much longer for the rent. The office was bigger than her entire apartment. Marcus Blackwood, a tall man with cold eyes, didn't even look up from his papers when she entered. "You're applying for the caregiver position," he stated flatly. "Yes, sir. I have 3 years of experience, and my grandmother taught me traditional—" "Save it," Marcus cut her off. "Can you handle basic hygiene care for a paraplegic? Bathing, changing, that sort of thing?" Eleanor nodded. "Yes, sir. I've worked with several patients with limited mobility, and you understand that discretion is absolute. Whatever happens in this house stays in this house?" "Of course, sir." Marcus finally looked up, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You're hired. Mrs. Peterson will show you to your quarters. You start tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp." Eleanor blinked in surprise. I can't live in. I have a daughter." "Then you're not hired," Marcus snapped, already looking back at his papers. Elena's heart raced. She thought of Sophia, of the eviction notice taped to their door. "Wait, my daughter. Could she stay here too? She's very quiet, very well behaved. She's 7. Marcus's jaw tightened. He picked up his phone. "Peterson, the new hire has a child. Clear out the small room next to the staff quarters." He hung up without waiting for a response. "One mistake, one complaint from my brother's fiancé, and you're both out." "Understood?" Elena nodded quickly. "When can I meet Mr. Victor Blackwood?" A strange expression crossed Marcus's face. "My brother isn't receiving visitors. You'll care for him, but don't expect conversation. The accident changed him. He's different now." As Elena followed Mrs. Peterson, the elderly housekeeper, through the massive house, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The mansion felt cold, lifeless. Family photos that once lined the walls had been taken down, leaving lighter rectangles on the expensive wallpaper. "Here's your room," Mrs. Peterson said, opening a door to reveal a modest but clean bedroom. "And your daughter can have this one." She pointed to an even smaller room next door. "Bathrooms shared with the other staff, kitchens off limits except during designated meal times. When should I bring our things?" "Tonight." "And girl?" Mrs. Peterson's stern face softened slightly. "Watch yourself around Ms. Montenegro. Mr. Victor's fiancé doesn't like— well, just watch yourself." That evening, as Elena packed up their small apartment, Sophia bounced with excitement. "Is it like a castle, Mama? Does it have a swimming pool? Will there be other kids to play with?" Elena pulled her daughter close. "Mi amor, remember what we talked about? This is Mama's job. We have to be very quiet, very respectful. The man I'm taking care of is very sick. I'll be good, Mama. I promise." Looking at her daughter's innocent face, Elena prayed she'd made the right decision. But something about Marcus Blackwood's cold eyes and the missing family photos made her uneasy. What exactly had she gotten them into? The next morning came too quickly. Eleanor stood outside the master suite, her hands trembling slightly as she knocked. "Enter," a woman's voice called. The bedroom was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens, but Elena's attention was immediately drawn to the man in the hospital-style bed. Victor Blackwood lay perfectly still, his once powerful frame diminished. His eyes were open but vacant, staring at nothing. Next to him stood a woman who could have stepped off a magazine cover. Her designer dress probably cost more than Elena made in a year. "You're the new help?" The woman's perfect nose wrinkled slightly. "I'm Isabella Montenegro, Victor's fiancée. Dr. Hayes will be here shortly to give you instructions. Don't try anything creative. Just follow orders." Eleanor moved closer to the bed. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood. I'm Elena. I'll be taking care of you." No response. Not even a flicker of recognition. "Don't bother," Isabella said, checking her makeup in a hand mirror. "He's been like this since the accident. Completely checked out. Dr. Hayes says it's probably permanent." But something caught Elena's attention. As Isabella spoke, she saw Victor's hand twitch, just slightly, and was that tension around his eyes. Before she could look closer, the bedroom door opened. A sharp-featured woman in a white coat entered, carrying a medical bag. "Dr. Hayes," Isabella said, "please show the new girl what to do. I have a charity luncheon." She left without even glancing at Victor. The doctor's instructions were cold, clinical. Basic hygiene, feeding, turning to prevent bed sores. "Don't try to engage him," she warned. "It only confuses him. Keep interaction to a minimum." But as Elena helped turn Victor for his morning care, she noticed something else. His muscles weren't as atrophied as they should be for someone who'd been immobile for months. And when she touched him, there was definitely a response. Subtle, but there. That evening, after putting Sophia to bed in their tiny room, Elena sat up reviewing Victor's medical files. Something wasn't adding up. According to the reports, he had severe brain damage from the accident. But the brief moments of awareness she'd noticed told a different story. Looking out her window at the dark gardens below, Elena made a decision. She would watch, wait, and document everything she saw. Her grandmother had always said that healing started with truth, and she had a feeling that truth was exactly what was missing in this house. What she didn't know then was that her decision would uncover a web of lies that would change not only her life, but the lives of everyone in the say. Blackwood Mansion, and it would all begin tomorrow morning in a bathroom, with a discovery that would shake her to her core. The next morning started like any other in the Blackwood Mansion. Elena arrived at Victor's room at exactly 6 a.m., pushing her medical cart. Isabella had already left for her morning yoga session, which, according to house staff gossip, usually involved mimosas and shopping. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood," Elena said cheerfully as she entered. No response as expected, but today was different. Today she would give him his first bath under her care. With gentle efficiency, she prepared everything needed. The bathroom was bigger than her entire former apartment, all marble and gold fixtures. As she began to help Victor out of bed using the mechanical lift, something caught her attention. His hand gripped the sheet, not a spasm, a deliberate grip. Elena's heart raced, but she kept her voice casual. "Don't worry, Mr. Blackwood, I'll be very careful." Once in the bathroom, she began to remove his pajamas. That's when she saw it. Tears, real tears rolling down his face. And his eyes, they weren't vacant anymore. They were filled with shame, awareness, and something else. Fear? Elena made a split-second decision. She leaned close, whispering, "Can you understand me, Mr. Blackwood?" If yes, blink twice. 2 distinct blinks. Her hands trembled as she pretended to adjust the water temperature. "Are you being drugged?" she whispered. 2 blinks. "Do they know you're aware?" 1 blink for no. Eleanor's mind raced. She needed to document this. But there were cameras everywhere in the house. She had to be careful. "I'm going to help you," she whispered. "But you need to trust me. And we have to be very, very careful. Blink twice if you understand." 2 blinks and something else, the faintest squeeze of her hand. That moment changed everything. As Elena bathed him, she kept up a normal, professional monologue for the cameras, but her mind was working overtime. Who could she trust? The police. But Marcus Blackwood had half the city's force in his pocket. The media. Isabella would twist the story. She needed proof. Over the next hour, as she went through the morning routine, Elena began to piece things together. The medication Dr. Hayes insisted on administering personally, the way Isabella and Marcus kept all other visitors away, the convenient power of attorney that Marcus now wielded. They were keeping Victor prisoner in his own body. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Elena pulled out her grandmother's old notebook. Inside were traditional healing recipes, physical therapy techniques passed down through generations. She had always been embarrassed by her grandmother's old-world ways before. Now they might be Victor's only hope, but as she planned, she didn't notice the shadow that passed by her window. Someone else in the mansion had secrets too, and they would do anything to keep them hidden. The next morning, Elena found her medical cart tampered with. A warning. They were watching. But when she entered Victor's room and saw the hope in his eyes, she knew she couldn't back down. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about saving a man's life. What she didn't know was that her 7-year-old daughter had already become part of the story. Sophia, with a child's innocent wisdom, had seen what the adults had missed. And soon she would play a crucial role in exposing the truth. But first, Elena had to find out exactly what they were giving Victor, and that meant getting access to Dr. Hayes's private medical bag, a task that could cost her not just her job, but her freedom. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than she could have imagined. Sophia loved exploring the big house. Even though Mama told her to stay quiet and out of the way, she couldn't help but peek into all the interesting rooms. The grown-ups never noticed her. She was good at being invisible when she wanted to be. That's how she found him. The sad man in the big bed. She wasn't supposed to be on this floor, but she had followed a pretty butterfly through an open window. The door to his room was open just a crack. Sophia peeked in. "Hello," she said softly, stepping inside. "I'm Sophia. My mama helps take care of you." The man in the bed didn't move, but Sophia wasn't fooled. She had played this game before at her old school when Jason Thompson pretended to be asleep during nap time. She walked right up to the bed. "You're not really sleeping. Your eyes move. When you hear things, just like Jason." For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the man's eyes focused on her. Sophia smiled. "I knew it. Mama says you're sick, but you don't look sick. You look sad." A tear rolled down the man's cheek. "Don't cry," Sophia said, pulling her favorite stuffed elephant from her pocket. "Mr. Trunks always makes me feel better when I'm sad. You can borrow him." She tucked the small elephant next to his hand. That's when she noticed the medicine cup on the bedside table. "My friend Maria at school takes medicine too, but her medicine doesn't make her sleepy like yours does, and it's not the same color." Victor's eyes widened slightly. "I can help," Sophia said excitedly. "I'm really good at helping. At our old apartment, I helped Mrs. Rodriguez from next door all the time. She taught me to make tea with special herbs that made her feel better." She heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly hid behind the curtains. Dr. Hayes walked in, carrying her medical bag. "Time for your medication, Mr. Blackwood," the doctor said. From her hiding spot, Sophia watched as Dr. Hayes added something to a glass of water. It made the water turn slightly cloudy. She set it on the bedside table and left, not even helping Victor drink it. Sophia waited until the footsteps faded away. Then she crept out and looked at the glass. "That's not nice medicine," she declared. "Nice medicine doesn't look like that. I'm going to tell Mama." Victor's eyes pleaded with her. "Don't worry," Sophia whispered. "I'm good at keeping secrets too. I won't tell anyone else." That evening, Sophia waited until Mama finished writing in her special notebook. "Mama," she said carefully, "you know the man you take care of?" Elena looked up sharply. "Sophia, you haven't been bothering Mr. Blackwood, have you?" "No, Mama, but I saw something today. The doctor lady put something in his water that makes it cloudy, and it makes him very sleepy, but he's not really sleeping all the time. He's just pretending." Elena's hands froze. "What do you mean, mi amor? He can see and hear everything. He just can't move much. Like when my foot falls asleep, remember? It's there, but it doesn't work right." Elena pulled Sophia into a tight hug. "Mi amor, this is very important. Did anyone see you in his room?" Sophia shook her head. "I'm quiet like a mouse, just like you taught me, and I left Mr. Trunks with him so he won't be lonely." "Your elephant, but you can't sleep without him." "It's okay, Mama. Mr. Blackwood needs him more than me right now." Elena felt tears in her eyes. Her daughter's innocent kindness might have just given them the breakthrough they needed. The next morning, Elena found Mr. Trunks carefully hidden under Victor's pillow, and next to the elephant was something else, a piece of paper torn from a magazine. Victor had managed to grip it just enough to tear it. On it was an advertisement for a medication, the same medication Dr. Hayes had been giving him. Elena quickly pocketed the paper. Now she had something concrete to research. But they weren't the only ones making discoveries. Marcus Blackwood had noticed something missing from his brother's room, the ever-present vacant stair, and Isabella Montenegro was getting suspicious about why her fiancé seemed more alert during Elena's shifts. The game was getting more dangerous, and now Sophia was involved too. That night, as Elena tucked Sophia into bed, her daughter asked, "Mama, why do bad people do bad things?" Elena stroked her daughter's hair. "Sometimes people are so focused on what they want that they forget about what's right. Like the mean lady in the pretty dresses? She doesn't really love Mr. Blackwood, does she?" "How do you know that, mi amor?" "Because love means you take care of someone even when it's hard, like you take care of me. The mean lady doesn't even look at him." Out of the mouths of babes, Elena thought. Sophia had seen right through Isabella's act. But Sophia wasn't done surprising them. The next day she did something that would change everything, something so simple yet so powerful that it would crack the very foundation of Marcus and Isabella's carefully constructed plan. All it took was a crayon, a piece of paper, and a 7-year-old's determination to help someone in need. It started with a box of crayons and a sheet of paper. Sophia had been sitting quietly in Victor's room during her mother's shift, drawing pictures like she always did. But this time was different. "Look, Mr. Blackwood," she said, holding up her drawing. This is you and this is the doctor lady putting the bad medicine in your water, and these are all the bottles she keeps in her special bag." Victor's eyes widened in alarm. The child had drawn everything. The distinct shape of the bottles, the different colored pills, even the special way Dr. Hayes mixed the medications. "Sophia!" Elena rushed over, horrified. "What are you—" But then she saw it too. Her daughter had unknowingly created evidence. The drawings showed details only someone who had witnessed the daily drugging would know. "Mi amor," Elena said carefully. "Would you make another drawing? Show everything you've seen the doctor lady do." Sophia nodded eagerly. "Can I use my special glitter crayons?" Over the next hour, Sophia created several drawings. Each one showed something important. Dr. Hayes's secret phone calls in the garden, Marcus going through papers in Victor's office late at night, Isabella meeting with strange men when she thought no one was watching. "And this one," Sophia said, holding up her last drawing, "is from yesterday. The mean lady was yelling at her phone about something called power of attorney." "Power of attorney," Elena corrected automatically, her mind racing. Just then they heard footsteps approaching. Elena quickly gathered the drawings, but in her haste one fell behind Victor's bed. Isabella burst in, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. "What is that child doing in here?" she demanded. "This isn't a daycare center." "I'm sorry, Ms. Montenegro," Elena said quickly. "She was just—" "Get her out, now!" Isabella's perfect makeup couldn't hide her rage. "And you're to keep her away from this floor. Understood?" Elena hurried Sophia out, clutching the drawings to her chest. But the one that had fallen, the most damaging one showing Dr. Hayes mixing the medications, remained behind Victor's bed. Later that night, as the mansion slept, Mrs. Peterson was cleaning Victor's room when she found the drawing. The ITO old housekeeper stared at it for a long time. Then she did something she hadn't done in 30 years of service. She went through Dr. Hayes's medical bag while the doctor was at dinner. What she found confirmed her worst fears. "Girl," she said, knocking on Elena's door late that night, "we need to talk." Mrs. Peterson had worked for the Blackwood family for 3 decades. She had watched Victor grow up, and she had noticed things changing after the accident. "The medicine she's giving him," Mrs. Peterson said, showing Elena a photo she'd taken with her old flip phone. "I recognized it because my sister was given the same thing in the hospital. It's not for paralysis. It's for keeping patients sedated during long procedures." Eleanor's hands shook as she looked at the photo. "They're keeping him drugged on purpose. But why?" "Money, girl, always follow the money." Mrs. Peterson pulled out a newspaper clipping. 2 weeks before the accident, Mr. Victor was about to merge the company with their biggest competitor. Would have made millions. But Mr. Marcus was against it, said it would mean losing control of the family business. "And Isabella? What's her role in this?" "That one." Mrs. Peterson's face hardened. "She was pushing for a prenup that would give her control of 30% of the company if anything happened to Mr. Victor. Papers were never signed, but with him incapacitated. A noise in the hallway made them both freeze. When nothing followed, Mrs. Peterson continued in a whisper. "There's more. Dr. Hayes isn't just any doctor. She's Mr. Marcus's old college girlfriend. Been seeing them meet in secret at least twice." "A week?" Elena's mind was spinning. "We need proof, real proof, not just drawings and suspicions." "Already working on it." Mrs. Peterson smiled grimly. "Remember those cameras they installed everywhere? Old Peterson, my husband, he used to do all the security maintenance before he passed. Taught me a thing or two about where the backup files are kept." For the first time, Elena felt hope. With Mrs. Peterson's help, they might actually have a chance. But their quiet conversation was overheard by someone else. Someone who had been watching Elena and Sophia since they arrived. Someone who had their own reasons for wanting the truth to come out. The next morning, Elena found a USB drive hidden in her cleaning cart. On it was weeks of security footage from Victor's room, showing everything. And a note from a friend who knows what it's like to be betrayed by Marcus Blackwood. The pieces were falling into place. But as Elena would soon learn, having evidence and being able to use it were two very different things, especially when the people you're fighting against have everything to lose. The morning everything started to unravel began with a scream. Eleanor rushed to Victor's room to find Isabella in a rage, designer handbag swinging wildly as she confronted Dr. Hayes. "What do you mean he's building resistance? That's not possible." Isabella's perfect manicure jabbed at the doctor's chest. "You promised me this would keep him manageable." "Lower your voice," Dr. Hayes hissed, glancing nervously at the doorway where Elena stood. "We have an audience." Isabella spun around, her face changing instantly to a mask of grief. "Oh, Elena, thank goodness you're here. Victor's been so agitated today. Dr. Hayes thinks we might need to adjust his medication." Elena pretended not to notice the meaningful looks passing between the two women. "Of course, Ms. Montenegro. Would you like me to come back later?" "No, stay," Dr. Hayes said quickly. "I need to document his reaction to the new dosage." Elena's heart raced as she watched Dr. Hayes prepare the medication. Thanks to the security footage on the USB drive, she knew exactly what was in those syringes. And it wasn't what was listed in Victor's official medical records. But today was different. As Dr. Hayes approached with the syringe, Victor's hand suddenly shot out, knocking the medication across the room. "Victor!" Isabella shrieked, jumping back. "What's gotten into him?" Eleanor moved quickly to clean up. The spill secretly thrilled. The reduced dosage over the past few days, thanks to Sophia's accidental spills and Mrs. Peterson's carefully timed interruptions, was working. Victor was getting stronger. "I'll have to sedate him," Dr. Hayes said, reaching for her medical bag. "No," Eleanor blurted out. Then, more calmly, "I mean, perhaps he's trying to tell us something. In my experience, sometimes agitation is a sign of progress." "Progress?" Isabella laughed coldly. "Dear, you're a cleaning, lady-playing nurse. Leave the medical opinions to the professionals." But Victor's eyes were clear and focused for the first time in months. He was looking directly at Elena, and she could see the desperation in his gaze. That afternoon, Elena received an urgent message from Mrs. Peterson. "Meeting tonight, basement storage room, bring everything." At midnight, Elena crept down to the basement, clutching the USB drive and Sophia's drawings. Mrs. Peterson was already there, along with a surprise guest, James Chen, Victor's former head of security. "I'm the one who left you the USB drive," James said without preamble. "I've been investigating Marcus ever since he fired me right after Victor's accident." Mrs. Peterson pulled out a thick folder. "Tell her what you found." James spread out several documents on an old table. "The accident wasn't an accident. Marcus hired someone to tamper with Victor's car. The plan was just to injure him enough to keep him out of the office for a few weeks, long enough for Marcus to stop the merger. But something went wrong," Mrs. Peterson added. "The brakes failed completely. Victor should have died in that crash." Elena felt sick. "Does Isabella know?" "Isabella?" James laughed bitterly. "She helped plan it. Look at this." He played a recording on his phone. Isabella's voice came through clearly. "Just make sure it happens before the wedding. I'm not signing any prenup, and I'm not spending my life with a man who cares more about his company than social status." "We have enough to go to the police," Elena said. "The police?" Mrs. Peterson shook her head. "Girl, half the force is in Marcus's pocket. We need something bigger, something public." "The shareholders' meeting," James said suddenly. "It's in 3 days. Every major investor and board member will be there. Marcus is planning to use it to officially take control of the company." Elena's mind raced. "If Victor could appear there, show everyone he's been drugged." "Too dangerous," Mrs. Peterson cut in. "They'd never let him out of the house." "Then we bring the evidence to the meeting," Elena insisted. "The recordings, the medical records, everything. They'll stop you before you get through the door," James warned. "Not if we have help," Elena smiled. "Sophia made friends with the security guard's daughter. He lets her play in the monitoring room sometimes. And tomorrow is Take Your Child to work day at the company." Suddenly, an alarm blared through the mansion. "Fire alarm," Mrs. Peterson said, but her eyes were suspicious. They rushed upstairs to find smoke coming from the east wing, right where Eleanor's room was located. Sophia!" Eleanor screamed, running toward the stairs. But Sophia wasn't in their room. She was in Victor's room, hiding under his bed. She had overheard Isabella on the phone, ordering someone to take care of the problem tonight. As fire trucks arrived and staff evacuated, no one noticed Dr. Hayes slipping into Victor's room with a loaded syringe. No one except Sophia, who had seen everything from her hiding spot. And no one, not even Elena, knew that Sophia had managed to swap Dr. Hayes's medical bag with an identical one filled with harmless saline solution. The next 24 hours would change everything. But first, they had to survive the night. Smoke filled the mansion's hallways as firefighters rushed in. Elena fought against the security guards trying to escort her out. "My daughter! I have to find my daughter!" "Ms. Rossi!" James Chen grabbed her arm. "Sophia's safe. She's with Victor." Eleanor's relief turned to horror. But Dr. Hayes went in there with a syringe. In Victor's room, Sophia huddled under the bed, clutching Mr. Trunks tightly. She watched Dr. Hayes's feet moving around the room. "Now, Victor," the doctor was saying, "this is just a precaution. Can't have you making a scene during all this excitement." But when she tried to inject the medication, nothing happened. She tried another syringe. Nothing. "What? This isn't possible." Dr. Hayes rummaged through her medical bag frantically. Sophia smiled in the darkness. The fake bag she'd switched, filled with water and food coloring to look like medicine, had worked perfectly, just like in her favorite spy movie. Suddenly, Victor's hand moved. Really moved. Without the drugs in his system for the first time in months, he was finally strong enough. His fingers wrapped around Dr. Hayes's wrist. The doctor screamed, dropping the useless syringe. That's when Elena burst in with James and 2 firefighters. The scene before them was chaos. Dr. Hayes trying to pull away from Victor's grip, medical supplies scattered everywhere, and Sophia crawling out from under the bed with a triumphant grin. "Mama, I did it. I switched the bad medicine just like in the movies." Dr. Hayes turned pale. "You little brat, do you know what you've done?" But Elena wasn't listening. She was watching Victor. His eyes were completely clear now, and his mouth was moving, trying to form words. Elena," he managed to whisper. Isabella chose that moment to appear in the doorway, still somehow looking perfect despite the chaos. "What's going on here? Why isn't Victor being evacuated?" One of the firefighters stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need everyone to leave the building now. We've found evidence of deliberate tampering with the electrical system in the East Wing." Isabella's face changed for just a second, a flash of guilt quickly hidden. Of course, Dr. Hayes helped the staff move Victor to the guest house." "No." The word came from Victor himself, stronger this time. Everyone froze. "No. More drugs." Victor's voice was rough from disuse, but his words were clear. "Elena, stay." Isabella's perfect mask cracked. "Victor, darling, you're confused. The smoke—" "He's not confused," Sophia piped up. "He's better because I switched the mean doctors. Medicine with water. And I saw you, Miss Montenegro. You were on the phone telling someone to start the fire." "How dare you!" Isabella advanced on Sophia, hand raised. "You little—" But she never finished. Victor, with strength no one knew he had left, pushed himself up in bed. "Touch her, and I'll have you arrested." The firefighters exchanged looks. One of them spoke into his radio. "Chief, we're going to need the police up here, and maybe somebody from the DA's office." Isabella backed toward the door. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling Marcus." "Already here, sister dear." Marcus Blackwood appeared in the doorway, his usual smooth confidence gone. "And I'm afraid we have a problem. The police just found some very interesting documents in your room during the evacuation. Care to explain why you have detailed instructions for tampering with brake lines?" Isabella's face went white. "You promised you destroyed those." "Well," Marcus smiled coldly, "a smart businessman always keeps insurance, and right now, I'm afraid you've become a liability." "You bastard!" Isabella lunged at Marcus, her designer, nails raking his face. "We had a deal." The firefighters moved quickly to separate them. In the chaos, no one noticed Sophia slipping Dr. Hayes's phone into James's hand, the phone full of incriminating text messages and recordings. As the police arrived and began taking statements, Elena sat beside Victor's bed, holding his hand. "How long?" she asked softly. "How long have you been aware?" "Months," he whispered. "Trapped in my own body, watching them steal everything." Sophia climbed onto the bed, careful not to disturb any of Victor's tubes or wires. "Don't worry, Mr. Blackwood. Mama and I will help you get strong again, and Mr. Trunks can stay with you until you're better." Victor managed a small smile. "Thank you, both of you." His hand tightened slightly around Eleanor's. "Stay? We'll stay," Eleanor promised, tears in her eyes, "for as long as you need us." But their ordeal wasn't over. In the guest house, where the staff had been evacuated, Mrs. Peterson was making a horrifying discovery. Hidden in Marcus's private study was evidence of something even worse than the attempt on Victor's life. And in her office across town, Dr. Hayes was making a frantic phone call to someone whose identity would shake the very foundation of the Blackwood Empire. The fire was out, but the real flames were just beginning to rise. Mrs. Peterson's hands trembled as she stared at the documents spread across Marcus's desk in the guest house. 30 years of service to the Blackwood family hadn't prepared her for this. "Oh, Mr. Victor," she whispered, "your father didn't die of a heart attack after all." The papers told a story that went back decades. Robert Blackwood, Victor, and Marcus's father had discovered something terrible about the company's early days, something about the real source of the family fortune. The guest house door creaked open. Mrs. Peterson quickly gathered the papers, but she wasn't fast enough. "Looking for something?" Marcus stood in the doorway, his usual polished appearance disheveled from his encounter with Isabella. "Mr. Marcus, I was just cleaning." "Save it." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "You know, I always wondered why my father trusted you so much. Now I know. You were helping him investigate the company's history, weren't you?" Mrs. Peterson lifted her chin. "Your father was a good man. He wanted to make things right." "Right?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Do you have any idea what would happen if people knew where our money really came from? How many lives would be destroyed?" "Lives have already been destroyed," Mrs. Peterson said firmly. "Your father knew that. That's why he was going to confess everything. And that's why he had to die." Marcus's voice was cold. "Just like Victor will have to disappear permanently. And now that the drug plan has failed." Neither of them had noticed Sophia standing on the balcony outside the study window. The little girl's eyes went wide as she recorded everything on her mother's cell phone, just like Elena had taught her to do, in case of emergencies. Back in the main house, Elena was helping Victor with his first real physical therapy session in months. Without the drugs in his system, his natural strength was starting to return. "Easy," Elena said softly as Victor struggled to sit up. "Your muscles need time to remember." "No time," Victor managed. "Shareholders, meeting, tomorrow. You're not strong enough yet. Have to be." His hand found hers. "Elena, there's something you need to know." But before he could continue, Dr. Hayes burst into the room, flanked by 2 police officers. "There she is!" The doctor pointed at Elena. "Arrest her! She's been practicing medicine without a license and endangering my patient." Elena felt her heart stop as one of the officers stepped forward with handcuffs. "Wait!" A new voice rang out from the doorway. A tall woman in an expensive suit strode in, followed by James Chen. "District Attorney Morrison," one of the officers acknowledged. "Those arrest orders are cancelled," the DA said firmly. "We have evidence that Dr. Hayes has been deliberately administering dangerous combinations of medications under the direction of Marcus Blackwood." Dr. Hayes's face went pale. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can." James held up her phone. "You really should be more careful about keeping incriminating text messages." "And that's not all," the DA continued. She turned to Victor. "Mr. Blackwood, we've been investigating your father's death. I believe you'll want to see this." She laid out a series of photographs on his bed. They showed Robert Blackwood meeting secretly with federal investigators just days before his death. Victor's hand shook as he touched the photos. "Father knew?" "He was working with us," the DA explained. "He had evidence of decades of criminal activity within Blackwood Industries, money laundering, fraud, even connections to human trafficking through shell companies." Elena gasped. This was bigger than anyone had imagined. Suddenly, Sophia burst into the room out of breath. "Mama, Mr. Blackwood, the mean brother, he killed his daddy. I heard him tell Mrs. Peterson." Before anyone could react, a gunshot rang out. Through the window, they could see Marcus dragging Mrs. Peterson toward a waiting car. "Nobody move," Marcus's voice carried across the lawn. "Or the old lady dies next." But he hadn't counted on one thing: the loyalty of the mansion's staff. As Marcus tried to force Mrs. Peterson into the car, he was suddenly surrounded by gardeners, security guards, and maintenance workers. All people who had served the family for years. All people who had loved Robert Blackwood and respected Mrs. Peterson. "It's over, Mr. Marcus," Juan the gardener said, his pruning shears pointed like a weapon. "Let her go." Marcus looked around wildly, realizing he was trapped. In his moment of distraction, Mrs. Peterson acted. With surprising strength for her age, she stomped on his foot and elbowed him in the ribs, just like she'd seen in her favorite police shows. The gun went flying. Marcus went down under a pile of angry staff members. As the police led Marcus away in handcuffs, Mrs. Peterson hurried back to Victor's room, clutching the documents she'd found. "You need to see these," she said, laying them on his bed. "Your father left a letter for you. He knew they might kill him, but he wanted you to know the truth, and he wanted you to make it right." Victor looked at the papers, then at Elena, then at Sophia, who was curled up in a chair with Mr. Trunks. "We'll make it right," he said, his voice stronger than ever. "Together." But even as justice seemed within reach, no one noticed Dr. Hayes slipping away during the chaos. She had one more card to play, one that would put everyone's lives in danger one final time. Dr. Hayes drove through the dark streets of the city, her perfectly manicured nails gripping the steering wheel. Her entire life's work was falling apart, but she had one last chance to fix everything. She pulled up to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. Room 237. Inside waited the person who had started it all 25 years ago. "I was wondering when you'd show up," a gravelly voice said as she entered. "It's over, Father," Dr. Hayes said to the man sitting in the shadows. "They know everything about Marcus, about the company's history." Richard Hayes leaned forward, his expensive suit a stark contrast to the shabby room. "Everything, my dear, they don't know the half of it. Who do you think helped Robert Blackwood build his empire in the first place? Who do you think introduced him to the right people? But why make me help Marcus try to kill Victor? Because Victor is too much like his father, too honest, too willing to throw away everything we built." Richard stood up. "But we still have one card to play." Back at the mansion, Elena was helping Victor dress for the shareholders' meeting. His strength was returning rapidly now that the drugs were out of his system, but he still needed support. "Are you sure about this?" Elena asked, adjusting his tie. "You've been through so much." Victor caught her hand, holding it against his chest. "I need to face them. For my father. For the truth." He paused, looking into her eyes. "For us." Sophia burst into the room, wearing her favorite party dress. "Mama, Mr. Blackwood, look what Mrs. Peterson gave me." She held up an old photograph. It showed a much younger Mrs. Peterson standing next to Robert Blackwood. They were both smiling at the camera, and between them stood a little boy, Victor. "Mrs. Peterson says this was taken the day your daddy decided to change everything," Sophia said. "She says he wanted to make things right because of you." Victor took the photo with trembling hands. "I remember this day. Father had just discovered what his partners were really doing with the overseas shipping companies. Human trafficking," Elena said softly. "That's what the DA said." "Yes, Father wanted out. He was gathering evidence, planning to expose everything." Victor's voice grew stronger. "When I took over as CEO, I started finding irregularities in the books. That's why I pushed for the merger. It would have meant complete restructuring, external auditors, and Marcus couldn't let that happen," Elena finished. Suddenly, Mrs. Peterson burst into the room. "Turn on the TV, quick!" The local news was showing breaking footage. Dr. Hayes stood at a podium, tears streaming down her face. "I can no longer keep silent," she was saying. "Victor Blackwood's injuries from the accident left him mentally unstable. In his paranoid state, he's making wild accusations about his family. For his own safety and the safety of others, he needs to be committed to psychiatric care." "That lying," Elena started, but Victor squeezed her hand. "Wait, look behind her." In the background of the news footage, partially hidden by shadows, stood an older man in an expensive suit. "Richard Hayes," Victor whispered. "Dr. Hayes's father. He was my father's original business partner. The one who introduced him to the human traffickers," Mrs. Peterson added. "Your father told me everything before he died." Sophia, who had been quietly playing with Mr. Trunks, suddenly spoke up. "Is that the man from the picture in the mean doctor's phone?" Everyone turned to look at her. "What picture, mi amor?" Elena asked. "The one she looks at every night before she makes her secret calls. He's standing with Mr. Victor's daddy, but he looks angry, and there's red stuff on his hands." Victor's face went pale. "Sophia, when did you see this picture?" "The night I switched the medicine bags. I used the mean doctor's phone to play my game, and I saw lots of pictures. This one was in a folder called Insurance." James Chen, who had been quietly standing guard at the door, sprang into action. "If Dr. Hayes has photographic evidence from the night Robert Blackwood died, that's why she's making her move now," Victor realized. "She's not trying to discredit me. She's threatening her own father. If she goes down, she'll take him with her." "The shareholders' meeting starts in 1 hour," Mrs. Peterson said. "They'll all be there, the board members, the investors, the press, and Richard Hayes," Victor finished. "He'll have to be there to protect his interests." He struggled to stand straighter. "Elena, I need your help one last time." Elena looked at the determined faces around her, Victor growing stronger by the minute, Sophia clutching Mr. Trunks with fierce loyalty, Mrs. Peterson holding decades of secrets, and James ready to fight. "Not the last time," she said firmly. "The first time, as a family." What none of them knew was that Dr. Hayes had one more secret, one that would turn the shareholders' meeting into a battleground where not just the company, but lives would hang in the balance. and it all centered around a USB drive hidden in the last place anyone would think to look. Inside, Mr. Trunks, Sophia's beloved stuffed elephant, the Blackwood Industries Conference Center buzzed with tension. Board members, shareholders, and reporters filled the massive room, all wondering the same thing. What would happen when Victor Blackwood finally appeared? Dr. Hayes stood near the podium, checking her phone nervously. Her father, Richard Hayes, sat in the front row looking calm and collected in his $1,000 suit, but his eyes kept darting to the doors. Any sign of them? He muttered when his daughter passed by. Nothing, she whispered back, but Victor's car just pulled up. Meanwhile, in the parking garage below, Eleanor helped Victor out of the car. His legs were steady now, but they'd brought a wheelchair just in case. Sophia clutched Mr. Trunks tightly as Mrs. Peterson and James Chen flanked them protectively. "Remember the plan," James said quietly. "We have to get Richard Hayes to incriminate himself before he realizes what's on that USB drive, and keep Sophia safe," Victor added, his hand finding Elena's. "No matter what happens up there." Elena squeezed his hand. "Mi amor, stay close to me," she whispered to Sophia. "No matter what you hear or see, don't let go of Mr. Trunks." They took the service elevator up just as planned, but when the doors opened, they found Isabella Montenegro waiting for them. Well, she said, her designer dress somehow perfect despite her night in jail. "Looks like the gang's all here. You're supposed to be in custody." James stepped forward. "Daddy's lawyers are very good." Isabella smiled coldly. "And very expensive." Speaking of expenses, she held up her phone. Someone just transferred $10 million out of the Blackwood accounts. I wonder who could have access to those. Through the conference room doors, they could hear Dr. Hayes beginning her presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Blackwood's personal physician, it is my duty to inform you that his recent behavior has been concerning." "It's starting," Victor said. "We need to get in there." "Oh, you're not going anywhere," Isabella blocked their path. "Not until..." "Until what?" Sophia suddenly spoke up. "Until you hurt more people? Like you hurt Mr. Blackwood's daddy?" Isabella's perfect smile faltered. "What is she talking about?" "Show her, mi amor," Elena said softly. Sophia held up Mr. Trunks. "The mean doctor put something in my elephant. She said it was a secret, but I saw her do it. And I heard her talking on the phone about pictures of you with the old man in the fancy suit." Isabella's face went white. "That's impossible. Richard Hayes promised those pictures were destroyed." "Got it," James said quietly, recording everything on his phone. Isabella realized her mistake too late. With a snarl, she lunged for the stuffed elephant, but Sophia was quicker. She tossed Mr. Trunks to Mrs. Peterson, who caught it with surprising agility. "Now," Victor called out. The conference room doors burst open. Elena pushed Victor's wheelchair straight to the podium, Sophia running alongside them. Mrs. Peterson and James blocked Isabella from following. Dr. Hayes stopped mid-sentence, staring in shock as Victor rose. From the wheelchair, the room erupted in gasps and camera flashes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor's voice rang out clear and strong. "I believe Dr. Hayes was about to tell you about my mental state. But first, let's talk about what's really been happening at Blackwood Industries for the past 30 years. Richard Hayes stood up. "This is ridiculous. Security." "Security isn't coming," James announced from the doorway. "They work for me now. All of them." Victor continued, his hand finding Elena's again. 25 years ago, my father discovered something terrible. His company, built with the help of his trusted partner Richard Hayes, was being used as a front for human trafficking." More gasps from the crowd. Dr. Hayes started edging toward a side door. "Don't even think about it." Mrs. Peterson's voice rang out. She held up Mr. Trunks. "Not unless you want everyone to see what's inside this little fellow." "When my father threatened to expose everything," Victor went on, "he was murdered by the same people who later tried to kill me, the same people who kept me drugged and prisoner in my own home." "Lies," Richard Hayes shouted. "He's delusional." "Am I?" Victor nodded to James, who connected his phone to the room's audio system. Isabella's voice filled the room. "Richard Hayes promised those pictures were destroyed." Then came the recording from the guest house, Marcus confessing to Mrs. Peterson about their father's murder. Finally, Dr. Hayes' own voice from her phone. "Daddy, if they arrest me, I'm showing them everything. The photos from the night Robert died, the offshore accounts, everything." Richard Hayes lunged for the podium, but Elena stepped in front of Victor. Sophia, showing the same courage that had helped save Victor, stuck out her foot. The mighty Richard Hayes, architect of decades of crime, tripped and fell flat on his face. The room exploded into chaos. Reporters rushed forward, cameras flashing. Security detained Richard Hayes, Dr. Hayes, and Isabella. Board members shouted questions, but Victor had eyes only for Eleanor and Sophia. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," he said softly. "Either of you." Sophia grinned up at him. "Does this mean you're going to marry Mama now? Because Mrs. Peterson says you look at her the same way the princes look at princesses in my books." Elena blushed, but Victor smiled. "Well, Mr. Trunks has already given his approval. What do you say, Elena? Ready to help me rebuild this company the right way, as a family?" Before Elena could answer, a shot rang out. Dr. Hayes had broken free, grabbing a security guard's gun. "This isn't over," she screamed, aiming at Victor. But she hadn't counted on one thing, the love of a mother protecting her family. Time seemed to stop as Dr. Hayes's finger tightened on the trigger. Eleanor didn't think. She just acted, throwing herself in front of Victor. But the shot never came. Instead, there was a loud thud. Everyone turned to see Dr. Hayes sprawled on the floor, Mrs. Peterson standing over her with Mr. Trunks in her hands. "I played softball in college," the elderly housekeeper said calmly, still holding the stuffed elephant like a weapon. "Never. Lost my swing." Security quickly detained Dr. Hayes as Sophia ran to hug her mother and Victor. "The elephant!" Dr. Hayes screamed. "Get me that elephant!" But it was too late. James had already retrieved the USB drive hidden inside Mr. Trunks, and FBI agents were streaming into the room. "Victoria Hayes," an agent announced. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, medical malpractice, and about 24 other charges we'll sort out later." As they led her away, Dr. Hayes looked back at her father, being handcuffed. "Daddy, help me." But Richard Hayes only sneered. "You're as weak as your mother was." Actually, Mrs. Peterson stepped forward. Margaret Hayes wasn't weak at all. She was working with Robert Blackwood to expose everything. "That's why she disappeared all those years ago, isn't it, Richard?" Richard Hayes's face went pale. "How could you possibly?" "Because I helped her escape," Mrs. Peterson smiled. "She's been living in Maine all these years, gathering evidence. Where do you think that USB drive really came from?" Dr. Hayes stared at her father in shock. "You told me Mother abandoned us. She'll be here tomorrow," Mrs. Peterson added gently, "to testify against your father and to see you, if you're willing to hear the truth." As the FBI led the last of the conspirators away, the reporters surged forward, but Victor held up his hand. "I'll give a full statement tomorrow. Right now, there's something more important I need to do." He turned to Eleanor, taking both her hands in his. "Eleanor Rossi, you saved my life in more ways than I can count. You showed me what real love looks like. Not the shallow society games Isabella played, but true, deep love that risks everything. For someone else." He got down on one knee, making Sophia gasp with delight. "I know this might seem fast to everyone else, but when you spend months trapped in your own body, aware of everything but unable to speak, you learn to recognize what's real. And what we have, what you, me, and Sophia have, that's more real than anything I've ever known." Tears streamed down Elena's face as Victor pulled out a ring, not a flashy society diamond like Isabella's had been, but a simple, elegant band that had belonged to his mother. "Will you marry me? Both of you?" He smiled at Sophia. "Will you help me build something new, something good? Say yes, Mama." Sophia bounced up and down. "Say yes." Elena looked at her daughter's shining face, at Mrs. Peterson's knowing smile, at James trying to pretend he wasn't crying. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything." 1 year later, the Blackwood mansion was transformed. Gone were the cold marble halls and formal parlors. Now children's laughter echoed through bright rooms filled with flowers. The company had changed, too. Under Victor and Elena's leadership, Blackwood Industries had become a force for good, using its resources to fight human trafficking and support survivors. Sophia had turned her experience into a children's book, Mr. Trunks Saves the Day, which was becoming a surprise bestseller. All proceeds went to children's charities. Mrs. Peterson still ran the household, but now she did it from a comfortable office next to the kitchen, where she could keep an eye on the cooking and the many children who came through the Foundation's new support programs. Isabella was serving time for her role in the conspiracy, writing a tell-all book that no one planned to read. Marcus had turned state's evidence and was in witness protection. Richard Hayes would never see freedom again. And Dr. Hayes, She had chosen a different path. With her mother's help, she was working to make amends, using her medical skills at a rehabilitation center for trafficking survivors. On this particular morning, Eleanor stood in the garden where she and Victor had just renewed their vows for their first anniversary. Sophia, wearing a flower girl dress for the second time, danced among the roses with Mr. Trunks, now slightly battered, but still proudly wearing his bow tie. "Penny for your thoughts?" Victor wrapped his arms around his wife from behind. "Just thinking about how much can change in a year," Eleanor smiled. "How love can heal even the deepest wounds. And how sometimes," Victor added, "the most precious treasures can be found in the most unexpected places." "Like a stuffed elephant?" Sophia giggled, running up to hug them both. "Like a brave little girl and her amazing mother," Victor corrected, lifting Sophia up. "Who taught me that real love isn't about power or money or status? It's about family," Sophia said wisely. "Speaking of family," Elena placed Victor's hand on her stomach. "We might need to get Sophia a new job title soon. How does Big Sister sound?" Sophia's squeal of delight could probably be heard in the city. As the sun set over the Blackwood mansion, the warm light fell on a family that had been forged in adversity and strengthened by love. On the mantel, next to formal portraits and society photos, sat a child's drawing, a simple picture of a man, a woman, a little girl, and a stuffed elephant, with the words, "My Family," written in crayon. And in a place of honor, in a special glass case in Victor's office, sat Mr. Trunks, keeping watch over the happiness he had helped create. A silent guardian of a love that had conquered all. The end.